Hey everybody, recently was asking for some suggestions for some videos not really related to me playing guitar or anything like that. Granted, I have one here, but just looking for some different sort of content for a little bit. And someone suggested like some top 10 lists, like my favorite video games, my favorite movies, and so on. And I figured, you know, why not start with video games? I don't believe I've done this before, but if I have, it was a long time ago, and the list has probably changed since then. But I figured, why not go at it? I have a top 10. I've got a few honorable mentions, and it's not really in any particular order until you get to like the top 2. And some of you will probably already know at least my number 1, because I talk about it all the time and I love it, but we'll get to that when it comes to it. So first honorable mention is Mega Man X. It's for Super Nintendo, and it was one of the first games that I ever got. And even to this day, I'm still watching people like speed run the game, or I'll be playing it, you know, on my off time. Like, it's just such a great game. It's got great music. It's got great level design. Each level's totally different from the next. And I love that, you know, if you beat a certain level, then it can change another level. Like, for example, oh God, it's been a little while since I played it, but I know, like, if you beat like the Launch Octopus stage, I think it floods out the like the Sting Chameleon stage or something like that. Like, a lot of things change depending on like the order of how you do things, and it's just a lot of fun. It's easily my favorite Mega Man game through any of the series, like Mega Man, you know, traditional, Mega Man X, Mega Man Legend. It's my favorite out of all of those, and I think it probably always will be. Next game. Another honorable mention is Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. And this is probably my most played Zelda. I could still play it to this day and have a ton of fun with it. It really is just a perfect Zelda game as far as like the 2D, like top-down perspective. It takes a lot from Zelda 1 and just perfects it. It makes it so fun. It's got so many different environments and so many different pieces of equipment you can use. You know, boomerangs, you got butterfly nets, you got shovels, tons of different like magic spells, and maybe not a ton, but a few. Just a lot going to it, and the whole time it's just a fun little adventure, whether you're a kid playing it or you're an adult playing it. You know, I've been, one of my earliest memories of video games is asking my dad to play that game just so I could watch him play it, because I wasn't good enough to do it myself. And it was seriously like one of my you know, most fondest memories when I was really young. I think it came out in like 93 or something, so I would have been about like 4 years old. And it's just a great game to watch, to play, and so on. You know, it's one of the best. Another honorable mention, and the final honorable mention, is Chrono Cross. It is a sequel to the game Chrono Trigger, but it's kind of like loosely based. It was for PlayStation 1, and granted, it really doesn't have a lot of connection to Chrono Trigger, but it's just a great RPG, and it's right around when, you know, like I said, it was PS1, so the graphics really aren't that great, but it just has a fantastic story. It's got a lot of different paths you can choose. It has so many characters you can use, some of which you can only get by doing certain stories. Like, for example, there's one part near the beginning of the game where you have to make your way to like this big castle, and you have to find your way to get there. And you have 3 paths you can go. You can get this guy named Pierre to bring you like through the front door. There's another guy that you can use to basically like show you a way like up the side of a cliff, like right next to it, and those people end up in your party. So it's really cool that there's so many different avenues you can go. The gameplay is a lot of fun. It's a little weird compared to some of the other like traditional RPGs like Final Fantasy, but it's not hard to figure out, and it's just fun to play. I wouldn't say it's the best RPG out there, but if you're familiar with like Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9, you know, stuff like that, and you haven't tried it, it's really a great game. So getting into my actual top 10 here, and like I said, these really aren't in any tight order because I just love all these games so much, and it's really hard to actually place them. But anyway, number 10 would be Super Metroid for the Super Nintendo. And this is another game that I love to watch people speedrun. I have very, very fond memories of playing it in like my early childhood. And if any game out there has incredible atmosphere, it's this game. And it is just immense, you know, the amount of atmosphere, you know, between Meridia with all the water, and you know, Norfair with the fire, and everything in between. You know, it's really a fantastic, just deep game, and you know, you could beat that game very quickly. I think like the world record's around like 30 minutes or something, but you can really immerse yourself in that game and really go exploring a lot, which is really fun. And I don't know, it's just such a perfect Metroid game. I think it's by far the best Metroid game that's ever come out. And I mean, I could, like I said, I could watch people speedrun that game all the time. One of my favorite videos on YouTube is from this convention called Games Done Quick, and I don't remember exactly which one it was. It was from a couple years ago, where it was a 4-way race, and these 4 people were each playing their own TV. They're all playing Super Metroid at the same time, and the ending is just insane. One person ends up dying maybe like halfway in. Another person falls behind a little bit, but 2 people have such a close race. It's just crazy, and I don't know. It's just such a great game, and I can't recommend that enough. Move on to number 9. Probably one of the newer, if not the newest game on my list. Yeah, I think it is the newest one. And it's the original Borderlands game. Came out for Xbox 360 and, you know, a couple other, I think it was probably for, you know, PlayStation 3 and some others. I think they re-released it and did like an HD remake or whatever. But I love a good open world, like Wasteland kind of game, especially this one. And I love the different characters that you can be. Each one makes just a totally different experience, just playing experience. There's a lot of fantastic like co-op things you can do. It really just makes it just a much more fun game playing co-op. I don't remember if there was much in the way of like multiplayer, like competitive. I think there might have been like some gauntlet type things. I don't remember, but it's just a really fun competitive, or not competitive, but like cooperative story, and I always have a blast playing that game. I could play it over and over again, and I have, and a lot of great DLC. Even the second game is really great. I mean, it's kind of a toss-up between these 2 games for me. I think the second one improved on a lot of things, but I think the first one's environment is a little bit better. Granted, I know like a lot of it is like on the same planet or whatever, but or all of it is, I don't remember. But I just like some of the places you go in the first one a bit better, and I like the characters a bit better in the first one, even if I really like some of the characters in the second one too. But I don't know, the first one I think is just a better story, and it's just a really great game. Okay, number 8 is Final Fantasy VII, and it's the only Final Fantasy game on this list. I've played quite a few of them, not all of them, but this was one I didn't play until, or I never finished until maybe like 5 years ago. And people always said, "Oh, 7's the best. 7's the best." I was like, "Oh, come on! You know, it can't be better than 4. It can't be better than 6." And I played it, and by the time I was done with it, I was like, "All right, yeah, I get it. It really is that good." And the story is amazing. The gameplay is really fun, really solid. The bosses are incredible. The summons are nuts. I remember the first time watching my dad play it when I was a young kid, and seeing Knights of the Round Table, I was like, "Are you kidding me?" It was just insane. And the music is one of the best soundtracks ever, and I could listen to that any day. And I think just the other day I was listening to it while I was at work, just in the background. It's just fantastic. It's definitely a bit different from some of the earlier Final Fantasies. You know, like I said, I love 4, I love 6. 9 is another one of my top favorites too. That's a very good game, but something about 7 really is just a step above, and unless you've played it, it's hard to really explain, but if you haven't, I really suggest doing it. Number 7 is probably the game I've played more than anything in my entire life, and it's easily my favorite shooter, and that would be Call of Duty Modern Warfare 1. When it first came out, I remember my friends were playing it, and you know, I'd been playing, you know, online co-op stuff and multiplayer stuff with my friends with like Halo, Halo 2, Halo 3, and whatever, and I never really got into like the army type games. You know, I had some friends even before that were big into like Medal of Honor and Battlefield 1942 and stuff like that, and I thought it was cool, but you know, it really didn't interest me all that much. But my friends had been talking about it, and just like the way that the game actually worked, it just seemed really satisfying, like the way you level up your weapons and you're doing certain challenges and things like that. It just really intrigued me. And then I remember my cousin had gotten the game, and he just really wasn't even getting into it, and I think it was like on Christmas he asked me if I just wanted it, I could just have it, and since then I played the crap out of it. I was obsessed with the whole prestige system. I was obsessed with getting, you know, all the headshot challenges with the guns. Man, I played on my main account through Xbox 360. I played like 22, maybe 23 days of playtime in that game, and I had so many friends that I could play with on there. It came out, when did it come out? It came out, I think it was my senior year of high school, and you know, everybody was playing that game. Everybody was playing that game. I always had tons of people to play with. We always had full parties, and we're all, you know, playing with our mics on, and everything was just really, really fun. And even when they re-released the game, they remastered it and put it on like the special edition version of Infinite Warfare. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, "Yep, here's my money. Take it." And even since then, I put another like 8 days worth of playtime on that, since it came out like 2 years ago or whatever. And I don't know, it's so addictive, and I'll always have just such fond memories of that game. Like, even just like sitting and listening to the music, like I would just have the game just running on like the menus in the background. Even just like the menu music just is just so nostalgic to me, and I don't know, I'll always have a place for it in my heart for sure. And some people might say something about Modern Warfare 2 in the comments. Modern Warfare 2 is a great game too. I really liked that, and I've heard rumors that they might be remastering that one, and I will be very excited if they do that. That was a very fun game, but it's not quite as good to me as the first one. Anyway, next game. Number 6 is a very, very good game, and a very close game for me is Banjo-Kazooie for N64. And man, I remember when I first saw this game, it was at Walmart, and it was like one of the games that was on display that you could play. And I think my parents were going grocery shopping or something. I went over there, and I had no clue what was going on. I was a bear, and I had a bird in my backpack, and I was running around, and there was just so many weird things. And I remember boots, like a pair of boots were talking to me, saying that I had to go talk to bottles before I could use the boots. And I'm like, what are bottles? And I gotta talk to just a bunch of bottles. I didn't understand that bottles was a character that lets you actually use certain items. And I don't know, I really was intrigued by the game, and I got it pretty quickly after that, and I played it so much. And that's another game where like each level has just so much depth to it, and so much, I don't even know how to explain it. It just has so much character to each level. I mean, like you get Gobi's Valley, which is like a desert, like Egyptian kind of level. You get Mad Monster Mansion, which is like a haunted mansion. Freezeezy Peak, which is, you know, all snowy, and each one is incredibly different and so fun to explore. And that's just another game that I'm very nostalgic about, and I'm glad they re-released it for Xbox. You know, I'll play that every now and then, and I'll have as much fun now as I did back then. You know, it really is a great platformer, and just a great game overall. Great music too. Seriously great music. Number 5 is, I couldn't even tell you how many hours I put into this game. Probably not as much as Call of Duty 4, but is probably one of the funnest open world games that I've ever played. And while it's not like super open, your options are just incredible, you know. At least back then. I think it was 2002 when it came out, and that's Grand Theft Auto Vice City. It's just a perfect game. It really is. If they re-released this game, which, you know, probably won't happen, because Rockstar just keeps making money off GTA 5 and people giving them money for online crap, but Vice City is just a perfect game. The driving is tons of fun. The missions are great. The story is awesome. The main character, Tommy Vercetti, is a badass. And the music is incredible. You know, it's like actual real bands and stuff like that. And, you know, I was always listening to V-Rock. I put on Flash FM. I forget what the talk show one is. Like, I think in VCPR, I think it's called, Vice City Public Radio. That was just hilarious to listen to, and I don't know, it's a great setting, you know, right in Miami, and I could play that for days. I had so much fun with that game, and whether you're just driving around having fun, maybe driving a motorcycle off like a huge staircase, or, you know, doing the missions, whatever, you know, it's such a blast. I love that game. you know, on the topic of GTA, just for people wondering, I mean, I started with GTA 3. I thought that was a really great game, but Vice City definitely improved on a lot of things. GTA 4, I really didn't play a lot of. I didn't really like it when it came out, and I tried again a couple months ago to get into it, and I still couldn't. Mostly because just like the driving and the just the overall like gameplay mechanics just were kind of weird. GTA 5 was a fantastic game. I really liked that one a lot too. But I'll always have a soft spot for Vice City. Number 4 is one of the biggest games of my childhood by far, and I think it might be the only handheld game on this list. But it's Pokemon Red and Blue, and I sunk a lot of hours into those games, let me tell you. More so Blue. I don't know if I ever had Blue like when it first came out. I know I got, Red. I don't know if I ever had Red when it first came out. Later on, I definitely got it, but I had Blue to start off with. I eventually got Yellow not long after that, which is definitely similar to Red and Blue, but it has its own differences, which are really cool. But man, I played so many hours on Blue, and I had so much fun just discovering all that you can do in that game, just the little secrets to find. Like, I don't even know how I figured this stuff out back then. I had a friend that I played with a lot too. Like, we would compare like what we were doing, and we'd trade stuff every now and then. And I still remember I had this Nidoking that I traded him that was maybe like a level 20 something, and then like the next day I'm hanging out with him again, and his Nidoking's like level 70 or something. I'm like, are you kidding me? And he's like, yeah, this thing's a beast. It could beat anything. And he was right. A lot of people use it for speed running and stuff like that because they can learn so many different moves and whatever. But yeah, I had a blast playing those games, and I could still play those games now and have a ton of fun. I'm super excited that they're coming out with Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. I definitely kind of fell out of the whole Pokemon thing after a while. Gold and Silver were a lot of fun. I thought those games were great. Even Ruby and Sapphire I thought were really cool. But after that, I kind of didn't really care much about them. I really did like that they re-released some of the other ones, like more so recently. I think it was like Omega Ruby and something else like that. And I did buy that maybe like 2 years ago or something. I had fun just playing the old story again with just like better graphics and stuff. But like Black and White and Sun and Moon, I didn't really get into those. But like I said, I'm really excited that they're remaking like the very first games with like all new graphics and everything for the Switch. I recently got a Switch, and I've been having a lot of fun with it, so I think it'll be really cool. Yeah, just great games, great RPGs, and definitely not just for kids. You know, I think it's just a fun game overall. All right, we're getting the top 3, and number 3 is just an insane game. It's Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and by far my favorite Castlevania game. I really prefer the Metroidvania style games where it has just the big open world map, and it's not just like stages like the first couple of Castlevanias. And just so much you can do in this game. Another game that just has great atmosphere, and a lot of different environments to go to, incredible soundtrack, and just a lot of variety in the weapons you can use, really fun bosses, great graphics for the time. I think it came out in like 99 or 98 or something for PlayStation, and it's another one of those games I could replay any day and have a ton of fun with. And it's one of those games where you could sink 100 hours into if you really wanted to, or you could beat it in like 3 hours. You know, it really is just a ton of fun, and I don't know, I love it. So number 2 is my number 2 favorite game of all time, and I have a lot of arguments over this game, because I still say it's the best Mario game of all time. Obviously, there's a lot of great Mario games out there. I mean, I've played a lot of them, and I'm having a lot of fun recently with Mario Odyssey. But my favorite Mario game is Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars for Super Nintendo. It was a huge team up with Squaresoft, who did like the Final Fantasy games before they turned into Square Enix, and then Nintendo. And it was just two huge powerhouses just making just an incredible RPG, you know, turn-based combat with the story lines and the great characters from Nintendo. And it really was one of the best games ever made, I think. Incredible soundtrack. I know I've been saying that a lot, but man, the soundtrack on this game is just amazing. And recently, you know, I think it was a year ago, almost a year ago, I actually covered one of the songs called Sad Song on a compilation CD called Danse Macabre 5, I believe it is. It might have been 6, actually. I don't remember. But it's on my page. And, you know, it's just a testament to how much I love that soundtrack. And just great characters. Another game which is great atmosphere. A lot of great environments. And another one of those games where you could beat pretty quickly, or you could take your time with it. But I don't know. I think it's one of the best games out there. And if you like RPG games and you've never played it, definitely play it. It is so worth playing. It's really one of the best games out there to start if you've never played an RPG before. It's very easy learning. And it might have been my first RPG ever. I'm not sure. But I don't know. It opened up a world to me of, you know, other role-playing games and like turn-based combat and stuff. And I've really grown to like it a lot. So, number one, like I said, a lot of you probably already know because I'm not shy about talking about how much I love this game. I have tattoos from the game on me, and that game is Chrono Trigger. And it was a game that my father had bought. My father had bought back in the day. He had bought tons of games, and he was always into like Super Nintendo and NES and N64 and stuff like that. And that was never a game I ever saw him play. It was never a game that I heard much about, but it was just every now and then I would just go through his collection of games, since we both had a Super Nintendo and we would just share games. And that was when I just saw like the cover of it, and I'm like, this looks kind of cool, you know, I'll give it a shot. Because at that point I believe I had already played and beaten at least Final Fantasy IV, which would have been Final Fantasy II on Super Nintendo, maybe even Final Fantasy VI, and Super Mario RPG. So I was kind of getting into like the RPG sort of stuff, and so I just played it on a whim, and it blew me away. It has the best soundtrack I've ever heard in my life. It has incredible characters, super fun combat, a really, really cool time travel aspect to it, where, you know, things you do in one time period will change what happens in another time period. Great bosses, and it's another one of those games where, you know, playing through it once just isn't enough. You know, they re-released the game a couple times. They re-released it on PlayStation 1, on the DS, and I think probably even on Steam or something. But it's got multiple endings, which is really fun. It has, I think, like 15 endings or something. Not even joking. I lost my train of thought, but I mean, it has New Game Plus, which not a lot of games have, but it's a really fun way of, you know, concentrating more on just the story than, you know, grinding and stuff like that. If you've already beaten it, you can just go through it again, you know, and keep your level, so you're just having fun. You can just kill stuff and get it out of the way, but, you know, concentrate more on the story and have fun like that. And I don't know, it really just is a perfect game, and I hope they make another sequel someday. you know, they could mess it up, or you know, they could make another fantastic game. I really don't know, but either way, that is my favorite game of all time. This has been my top video games of all time, and if you have any comments at all with any of these games, definitely let me know. You know, I love talking about these games. I like talking about games in general. Granted, I don't play as much as I used to, but like I said, I just bought the Switch, and I'm definitely getting back into that sort of thing. So I'm having a lot of fun with it, and yeah, I love all these games for a lot of different reasons. So yeah, like I said, hit me up in the comments, and if you have any suggestions for other videos or anything like that, definitely let me know. I'm always open to suggestions, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.